So online, sorry, there was that miss up. It's now okay. Confirm now you can get the volume. Okay, good. But you have been following my mouth. What we have been writing. So coupon interest rate is 5%, 5% of the nominal. So 5% of 100 billion. This one comes to 5 million. Well, we give. Oh, I don't know the best. Yeah, they give us somewhere here. 5 million. Yeah, that is how they got the 5 million they were talking about. So that is okay. Effective is 7.7. Now fine. Now something which happened, why this thing is wrong. You know what they did? There are two things which are bringing the confusion. With them, what they did, they took this amount. They say the cash received from the bond issue of 95 has been recognized as an current what? Liability. That should not happen. You need to amortize because you know that is what you have received. Then you will capitalize it. You add the finance cost, then you subtract what? Interest. So the amortized value at the end of the year is what you need to recognize. So that was one mistake they did. They were supposed to amortize the bond, then whatever balance remains at the end of the year is what they present. So that is mistake one. Mistake two, it was on this 5. Check how these people worked on the 5. Check how they worked on the 5. So there's a mistake they did. What they did, they expensed. So that's what they have said. They expensed this 5. And 5 is the actual what? Interest. You don't expense the interest. What you need to expense should be the finance what? Finance cost. Because interest is part of the finance cost. So we always expense the finance cost, not the actual interest. So that is a mistake they did. Those two things. So when the examiner says, when they say demonstrate, how? So in a FAR, when you are told to demonstrate, illustrate, discuss, whichever. Now ukiona hiyo swali iko na hesabu, this is how it is done. You start by talking, unaandika. So starting by writing, you tell us what the standard requires. In any question, what does that standard require about that which is under consideration? Then now do the calculation on what you have said. Then you finish now by telling us how now we should recognize what you have done. That is how you do any question on demonstrates. So here we will start by saying, so literally, because this one will not be the same to everyone. So I can give it casually, then we write now the nice way. Casually, what you need to tell the examiner is that IFRS 9 requires that the amount to be recognized as a liability should be the amortized cost at the end of the year. And the amount to be recognized as an expense should be the finance what? The finance cost. Then you can try to amortize. Then after amortizing, now you tell us the non-current liability should be this, which we'll be having, while the finance cost should be this much. So that's what should happen. So we can put it in a formal way. You say under IFRS 9s, under IFRS 9s, with apostrophe under IFRS 9's amortized cost model, under IFRS 9's amortized cost model, comma, a financial liability should initially be recognized at their fair value, of the cash received. Full stop. Another hyphen. Any direct cost attributable to the issue of the bond should be offset against the carrying amount of the bond. Full stop. Therefore, comma, on initial recognition, the bond should be measured as follows. So down there you say fair value of the consideration received. They received how much? They received 95. But they said they incurred kulikuwa na broker's cost of 1.8. That 1.8 you can't amortize because it's inalipwa one-off. What remains is what will be amortized as time goes by. So you less transaction costs, which is broker's fees of 1.8. So the carrying amount of the bond will be how much? Carrying amount of the bond will be how much? Carrying amount of the bond will be 93,200. Good. So that is what will subject to amortization. Down there, you say the initial recognition. Now, you know, they say we are the fund. Yes, that one they gave you on the subtract. The initial recognition and measurement. The initial recognition and measurement of the liability. Has been accounted for correctly. In the books of Dodoma Limited. Full stop. However, down there, IFRS 9 requires that the bond should be amortized The bond should be amortized over the bond period. Should be amortized over the bond period. Should be amortized over the bond period as shown below. Over the bond period as shown below. So let's amortize this. But then you're keeping the max ngapi? 10, yeah. So 10 teachers. So bond amortization. Bond amortization. So let's amortize this bond. Let us amortize this bond. So here, balance brought down. Who is the number issue among purchaser? You know, we have to be keen. They purchased all the issue, then so finance costs. Because if they purchased, we talk of finance income. So finance costs 7.62. Correct? Interest paid. Here in the corner, 5%. Then balance carried down. Balance carried down. So shillings. So now, interest will remain constant. 5. It was 3 years. 5 million, 5 million, 5 million. But the last one, it will be 5 million plus the 100. The 100 million. We always redeem the nominal unless stated otherwise. You always redeem the nominal. So it started in which year? 2018, no? 19. Yes. So 19, 2020, 2021. So balance brought down, and it was not 93 something, 93, 200. So 93, 200. So 7.62 of this, but then you can finish for me amortization. You will get a negative. Negative means they are fully paid. So negative, just write nil. So take this times this, give me here, then give me there. What you get here, of course, is what you bring here, then continue amortizing. Just proceed and finish up.
95330. Negative kilowatt. No, that's not this one. So negative 70, and so negative What? When it is what? See, you want to know what is to do for good nation. 75%. First goal at 79, then the last goal at 97 minutes. 9 plus 7 minutes. Extra time. And the same zone plus 2 goals for 10 minutes.
Eli umepata negative 17 something. So this one comes to 3071. 71. 71. 018. 40. So this one comes to
95.
40. Yes. The last one you have said you have gotten negative 17. 35. 95. That is named. It makes the pay. So online, I hope everyone is getting this. So now, actually, I'm only interested with this year, 2019. It will be quite number this year too. Because if you check the question, if you check the question, they are saying check required, demonstrate how the bond issue should be accounted for. 2019. So the question was only 2019. Amortization was just for formality. So hapo chini naendelea kuandika the bond should have been accounted for as follows. Should have been accounted for as follows. So non-current liability, should have been 95,302,840. that closing. Then expense, that is finance cost. So they were not supposed to take the interest. Finance cost is how much? 7,101, 840. All those for 2019. So that's how they were supposed to account for it. So those issues of demonstrate, discuss, an example, start by saying what the standard report, just something relevant to that. Look at small computation, then show us now how we are supposed to about it. That is all. The next question is which one?
December 2024.
So open December 2021. We have that question of December 2021. That question will be repeated one day. It proved to students to be the worst of all. December 2021 question. 3B. Note pilot paper. You know, December ilikuwa na maswali mbili 2021. There was December for pilot na hiyo ingine. So check the question itself. Wanajita? Blankets. So I want to check that question. Can you just go through it? It's a very funny question. Go through that question. So if you get, you are the only people here. Numaliza. That one was a very bad question, and it might be repeated one of these 9 days. So let's do it together. Together. Let's analyze. So in this question, so in this question, the nominal value was 2.5. Nominal value. There is something serious you need to know. What you need to know is that finance costs should always be charged. It is when professors are ahead. Should always be based on the amortized costs, i.e., that is, it does not depend. It doesn't depend on the market fluctuations, yes. Full stop. That is very important. Interest payable should be based on the nominal value. This one I know you know. The one which is very crucial and dangerous is this one here. Number 1, finance costs should always be based on the amortized costs. It does not depend on the market fluctuations. So what happens? You find that what you have amortized is not the fair value at that point. So the amortized cost will be based on the amortized value, so that the finance cost will be based on the amortized value to avoid interfering with the finance cost or finance income. So you always base it on the amount which you have amortized, unless the fair value is equivalent to the amortized cost. Like in the question we did in the morning, the nominal was this and the fair value was that. So we had no amortized cost at the start. So this fair value was assumed. But once you have amortized cost and you have the fair value, you should always charge finance cost based on the amortized value. So let's check this question. That is what actually is highly testing. So this question here, the nominal value is how much? 2.5. True. Then the purchase consideration was 23.75. So what are your funds? I want interest payable. Interest payable will be 2.5 times, what is the rate? 5%, sure. That one will be how much? What is 5% of this? 125,000. So that one will be interest. So I want to know the carrying amount to amortize. So carrying amount to amortize. How much consideration did they pay to acquire the bond? Because this is an investor. So 23, 75, minus, not minus actually, plus. You know, when you are the investor, you know the investor is the one who will cash transaction cost. So if the investor in cash transaction cost, then the transaction cost will form part of the cost of the bond. But company borrower, then the issue cost you subtract. Unaona kama ile ya broker, you subtract your part of what. I hope you get, you come when you unanunua your own, so your transaction cost ukinkaa is part of the value of the bond. So to the this is an investor, so you add the borrowing, the transaction cost, which was how much? 50. So tell me how much we are going to amortize. How much is that? 24, 25. 24, 25. That is the amount which we are going to amortize. So, yeah, that is all. We have taken the crucial things. So now, what I know maybe in our challenge logo is this note here. They are saying the fair value of the bonds was as follows. So at the end of 2022, you know the year started on 1st July 2021. So that one goes to 2022. The fair value is 2750 in 2023, 2.6. So when you have been given the fair value of those bonds, what the examiner wants to check whether you can be able to know, whether you can be able to determine gain stroke loss on fair value. Because what you will do, so you amortize back balance carried down. So that carried down, you will compare, because carried down is at the end of the year. So you compare with the market value on that date, then you report again or what? Or loss. So in my amortization, I'm going to add two columns. The column for the fair value and the column for gain or loss. So let's have the amortization. 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 So bond amortization. Bond amortization. So we write here. Then balance brought down. This is investor, so you talk of finance income. 7, the rate is, it is 7.7. Effective 8. This is 8. Interest income, interest 5%. Then balance carried down. We have to add two columns there. As much as the two columns to get the gain and the loss. So balance brought down. Finance income. Interest income, balance carried down, fair value, gain stroke what? Loss. So that is going to be our amortization. It is only 3 years. So the first year is 2021, 2022. So just like 2022, 2021, 2023, 2024. It was 3 years. And then the amount to amortize is the 24-25, the carrying amount. So 24-25, 8%. One? 194,000. Interest, 5% was 125. So 125. That one will be less. So get the balance carried down. So this plus this minus this. I'm getting 2494. Yes. 2494. That. So in our books, the bond is reading 2494. What about the market? 2750. So fair value is 2750. So you report again loan loss because amortized is now the what you have recorded. So we gained, we lost. We gained. The market value is higher. So minus 2750. Huh? 350. 256,000. So that is again. So itaanzia hapo 2023 kusonga mbele, but I hope God is going to be with us. So in 2023, the balance, unaona, let me start by asking you this. Ulinunua shamba 2022 at 3 million. In 2023, the value attached to now the value of this land is 3.5. What will you record in the books if you have not sold the land? 3.5. So because once you have revalued the asset, the revalued amount is the correct what? The correct value. So
you have to make it value.
yes, my value. Because this is the market value. Even this one, the revaluation is the market value. The current market value is the revalued amount. So we record 3 point what? Unit balance sheet. So in the books, at the start of 2023, I'm bringing 27 what? 50. That is what you will capture. But that is not what you are going to amortize. Finance income cannot be based on market fluctuation. It will be based on the amortized what? Cost. Otherwise, your finance income you will end up overstating, understating throughout. So you charge finance income on the amount it ought to have been, the carried down, which is how much? 2494. The market may dictate that one, fine, but the amortized, the way you started, that is how you will go at the end. So the finance income will not be affected by the fair value changes. So finance income 2020, which one? 2023 will be 8%. 8% times 2494. You charge it on the amortized value. Okay? 199. Yes. 199,520. This one remains constant. So balance carried down, you just take 2750 plus this minus the 125. So here comes to 28, 2.6, a loss of how much?
224.
24. 224.
Yes.
Of 520. That's a loss. Nasonga vizuri. Haya, 2024. 2024, the book value will be 2.6. But that is what is not what you're supposed to amortize. You amortize what was supposed to be the brought down amortized what? Costs. So 2024, finance income, 2024, you charge what it ought to have been. It was supposed to be. I know some of you are going to take this one. No. Because you see this value carried down, it is a product of this fair value. So it ought to have been, kama hii ingeletwa hapa. It would have been 2494 plus this one, because this one was a product of this, plus 199 minus 120 what? 5. So what you are getting in this bracket is what ought to have been here instead of 2824. That ought to have been the amortized value. So hapo ndio itakuwa. But mkishika hiyo kisha. That question will repeat. I'm 100% sure. One of these 5 days. We don't know when. So it ought to have been this plus the finance cost. This 199 was not based on 27. It was based on 24. So if the fair value was not there, you know, this is what was supposed to be brought down here. So you work with what it ought to have been if it was to be amortized. So this one was to be here. Then we add this, we subtract this. So how much are we supposed to get instead of 28? So that is what was supposed to be brought down here. So that is what you charge. Hapo tu ndio watu wanapotianga kidogo. But kama mnaelewa ni sawa. So how much is this? 205. The after 8%. 205? 482. This one is 125. Give me the balance carried down. So that is the end of year 3. So it also it's how much? 86, 80, or 82. They said they will redeem. They will redeem at 149,000 above the nominal value. So they are saying at the end of the year, they will redeem the nominal. Nominal was 2.5 plus, so redeemable amount is 2.5 plus 140 what? 9. So 149 amount is, that's a premium. So it is 25 plus 149. So they will redeem 2649. That is the amount they will have to redeem. That is the redeemable amount. They have said they will redeem 149 above. It means that will be the fair value on that date, according to them. And that's why the examiner never gave the fair value 2024. Am I going to tell? No. So what they will redeem is assumed to be the market value. So you come here, you say 49. So again, they lost. So 2680, 482, 2649, 31, 482. They lost. And that is the end. So there is something you are supposed to observe from that table. When they give you the market value, which is the fair value, will help you to get the gain or loss. That is one. Two, the finance cost or the finance income should not be affected by the fair value changes. It should be based on the amortized what? Yes, amortized cost. So you check if the fair value was not there, what was supposed to be the amortized value? So in 2023, if the fair value was not there, it ought to have been 2494. That is what you multiply by 8 and we got this. But now since this is what the market gave, just amortize that. But when we go to 2024, we will not use 2824 multiplied by this because inside the 2824, there is, yes, so you have to take that. So you take this plus this minus this to get what it was supposed to be. Then you recognize. But that was not the question. The question is prepare extract of the financial statement. So PA, profit account. Then we prepare statement of financial position. Okay. Hapo iko kazi. 8 marks. But tumemaliza. See, once you have this, so P&L, this profit stop loss extract. For the 3 years, 2022, 23, 24. So P&L, income. This one was an investor. So finance income, you pick these figures there. So pick those figures for finance income, 194, 199, 205, 482. SFP extract. So 2022. So here we talk of assets. So non-current assets, financial assets. Goes on. Ndio. Kama ilikuwa ni kwa loan na bond. Goes on. bond. So financial assets, which is a bond in this case. So you pick another your fair value at the end of each year. Now that is what we consider. This is what we pick to be the book values. So this is 2750. Once they are revalued, that is like revaluation. That is what you pick. 26, the year 2024, the one they will redeem, 2649, the redeemable amount. Memorize. Like the caption in the P&L. SFP goes out. P&L, there is something that we have to adjust. So finish this, I'll delete this, then I adjust something in the SFP. Just one item. You see, we were gaining, we were losing. That gain stop loss should be recognized in the P&L. But just finish this. So I hope you are done. So that is the case. Right there, other comprehensive for finance income, other comprehensive income. Other comprehensive income. Other comprehensive income. So other comprehensive. Those changes in fair value are just others. They are not normal because with the others to again, they're just any other income. Your main motive was to get returns, which is the financial income. If there is gain or loss on that, then those are called other comprehensive. So increase, stroke decrease in fair value. So here there was an increase of 256. There was a decrease of 224520. Then there was 31482. Extract, there is no restriction that you have to add, but if you wish to, you can take this plus that minus that. Then you call it total comprehensive. Total comprehensive income, like that. So that is the end of that question. Let me answer Collins. Oh, sorry, Collins, no problem, but not today, because I'm recording it, will have to compress, then maybe Monday I'll share. All right, so that is it. Subtopic, hajaisha your topic. There's a subtopic here. There's a subtopic called derivatives. Derivatives. So about the tunaandika, then discuss tukisonga mbele. So right there under derivatives, you say derivative are securities, but it's tunafanya sana kwa financial management, those who are doing it from. Derivatives are securities. Derivatives are securities that derives. Derivatives are securities that derives their fair value. That derives their fair value. Derives their fair value from other assets. From other assets, or uses other assets, or uses other assets as benchmarks. Uses other assets as benchmark in determining their fair value. In determining their fair value. I repeat, derivatives are securities that derives their fair value from other assets or uses other assets as benchmark in determining their fair value. Examples are future contracts. Examples are future contracts and options. Examples are future contracts and options. So in the market, there are those securities. Their fair value depends. Their fair value depends on the value of other what? Securities. Wanachungulia. Unajua kama hata kwa ofisi mtu anaangalia kama boss ameenda lunch. Very fast. Yes, so those securities which uses other securities as benchmark in determining their market value, they are called derivatives. Down there, used to kuandika embedded. Embedded derivatives. Embedded derivatives. Embedded derivatives. Then you say it is a provision in a contract. It is a provision in a contract. It is a provision in a contract that modifies the cash flow. That modifies the cash flow. Modifies the cash flow of a contract. Modifies the cash flow of a contract by making it dependent. By making it dependent on some factors. Dependent on some factors, e.g., an entity may make a provision that the cash flow from a security, a provision that the cash flow from a security, will be dependent. Cash flow from a security will be dependent on interest fluctuation rates. Will be dependent on interest fluctuation rates. Full stop. So embedded, to embed means to be attached to. So their cash flow purely depends on the market fluctuation rates or inflation factors. Those are all. So utaulizwa examine in relation to IFRS 9. Differentiate between derivative and embedded derivative. Derivative is a security which uses other securities as benchmarks in determining their market value. Embedded derivatives, their cash flow depends on some factors such as inflation, changes, interest rate changes, foreign currency. These are hedge accounting, another one down there. Hedge accounting. Hedge accounting, that's a topic. Hedge accounting, you say a hedge is an instrument. A hedge is an instrument which is meant to offset. A hedge is an instrument which is meant to offset. It's meant to offset the adverse changes in fair value. Instrument which is meant to offset the adverse changes in fair value or cash flows. In fair value or cash flows, which may be expected to take place, during the financial period. Full stop. Another effect before we explain, they act as a mitigating measures. They act as a mitigating measures against the variability, from the word vary, the variability created by the changes in fair value, and expected cash flows. Full stop. Before to explain that thing called hedge. So a hedge, hedge become a fence to protect. So in the stock market, utapata mtu akona bond and some other bonds mingi. So they have one serious bond, another 20 million, usually that 2 billion, 5 million. So this bond here is meant to act as a safeguard. That if people invest in your bonds, unaona kama hiyo time ya COVID, things were not very good. Lakini investors, si mtu alikuwa anataka interest yake. Si mnakumbuka ilikuwa Saiton? Unakumbuka what happened? Ilienda hivyo. I don't know what happened finally. I never followed that. So investors, what they can do, they can have one instrument whose purpose is not to trade. In a gain, your gain in a credit yake. Unaona kama money market, inakuwa created in the account, haiguzwi. So that should there be any changes, any variability is now the changes in market rates, then you can use the income or the gains you get from this one to offset those changes. So it acts as a safeguard to other securities. That is called a hedge. So hedge accounting is whereby now you need to check if we get here, how can we use this one to safeguard those other ones. Can you check for me September 2021, question 4A? September 2021, question 4A. September 2021, question 4A. What are they saying?
The two main types of hedge, describe the accounting treatments in the financial statements.
Types of hedges, you know, types of hedges. September 2021, question 4A. September, so right there, types of hedge in brackets, September 2021, question 4A. So hedges are classified based on what they are safeguarding. Those which are safeguarding changes in market value, fair value, are called fair value hedges. Those which are safeguarding cash flow, that cash flow ikiteremka, itachukuliwa offset, those are called cash flow what? Cash flow hedges. So, but zinakuwa tatu. Hedges are three, but the main ones are the fair value hedges, cash flow hedges. Then there is a hedge against the net investment in foreign operations. So let's list the three first. Yes, I've said the main are these first two, the fair value and the cash flow. Then kuna kwanga na ingine. Kuna kwanga na ingine. So fair value hedge, that is number one, fair value hedge. So wale watu wanakuwa kwa matatu, mtu anasema mimi najua, unajua kuna watu wanapiga simu na sauti kwa gari, ati mimi najua tu mimi ni mpango wa kando. Hapana. From today early, hedge ni safeguard, unajua mpango kando ni safeguard in case of anything. Mpango wa kando tumewa ku mitigate to safeguard the adverse changes, the variability. So we have fair value hedge, cash flow hedge. Then the last one, which they normally consider not to be serious. So the last one is called hedge of net investment. Hedge of net investment in a foreign operation. In a foreign operation. Those three. Ile ingine na protect fair value, ile ingine na protect cash flow. This one, si kuna wana foreign exchange, hiyo fluctuation, Yeah, so there is a hedge mweka tu. Kama wewe una trade na watu international, unaweka for the interest fluctuation, hiyo foreign exchange rate fluctuation. So kwa hivyo kwenye umeandika, you have written 1, 2, and this third one. So finally, the first two, right? The main. Those are the main ones. The fair value and the cash flow. Because even if you check the it will finally fall under this. Because interest rate, foreign currency fluctuate, it will affect either the market value or the cash flow. So at the end of the day, Nigeria will classify them into three. We start in the question they have said, state explain the accounting treatment. So we have to talk about it. So let's start with number one, fair value hedge. Fair value hedge. Fair value hedge. Mimi nimechoka. Tena nini? What I want to do, what I want to do, is just one page remaining. Sinaweza watumia mwende mmalize kuandika. Hata mtaelewa because already I've explained. So ukiandika hizo fair value, hiyo mambo ya fair value hiyo, I think I can save you then. Utamaliza kuandika. Hata mmeshapita watu hivi, that is my
Yes.
I don't find. When was section 3? Hata wao wanafanyanga hiyo bado. Though wao wafanye serious kama hii. Yao inakuwa. So hata natumia hii umalize kuandika. Eli, today you have to write. I remember last time kuandika. Kwani ilikuwa kubwa? But we will discuss it out. This one. You know, I've not had a rest since 6:15 a.m. I've been teaching throughout. I've taught now almost, I don't know how many hours. So results, sure bet, itatoka next week. Yes, see, diploma walitoa leo. Yes. So next week, sure bet. Next week, class Raja. So I'm sending this. So online, you can just log out. I've shared what is remaining. Just put it down. Tutakuja to discuss. Then kuna swali walileta hapo. Kwa hiyo September 2021 kuna kahesabu kadogo. We will come, we solve it, then we move forward. The beauty part, we are at par now with evening. Evening is my benchmark. You then happen. So thank you. This one will continue today. See, tomorrow we have music. Yeah. So if you want to come tomorrow, come at your own risk. We will not be around. This is yours. Online logout. Direction. Hey, I still have work around like that.